Day 25. Get to talk about something I learned recently. So, for me, being the software person I am, I have been mildly interested in artificial intelligence. I was more interested in machine learning when I was actually working. Um, the generative algorithms and such were fairly, well, I can't say they were unknown, but they weren't popular. uh, GPT, as we now know it as ChatGPT, was an interesting curiosity because version 2 was out and 3 was kind of catching people off guard. And that's when I became aware of those um, algorithms. So, the thing that is interesting to me is Gemini 2.5 Pro was released yesterday, and uh, the things they're asking these AI systems to do are quite different than what they were asking barely 5 years ago. Um, so I watched someone on YouTube demonstrating uh, Gemini taking some fairly mm, generic specs and producing something uh, reasonable. But where it got interesting is as you got very detailed and specific and kind of getting almost to that, definitely not a requirements document, but you're headed in that direction. And it's producing um, surprisingly useful programs. Now, they were demonstrating simulations and eye candy and game development and such, where the rules are well known and prescriptive. So a generative AI can actually do that real easy because there's a formula to follow. It's when you start getting into the realms of uncertainty and there's a large space of option that's where generative algorithms really start to fall apart. So, but still, it got me thinking. Um, I've been using it mostly as a brainstorming tool and something that I can, change my writing voice, uh, get me out of the I can'ts, and a bit of search. I've started playing around with Perplexity, and uh, I wish I had found it sooner because stuff I'd been looking for some time. It just coughed up in a couple of searches where I spent hours on Google sifting through the cruft and minutia and all the ad crap. You know, the today's Google PageRank algorithm and what they have done to it since um, doesn't cut it so well because people understand the game and they have figured out ways to do stuff. And there's so much business and economics in the algorithm now that you don't actually get a true representation. You just get an idea, either something that is moving through social media or someone's paid a lot of money. And that is very unfortunate that Google has fallen from the search grace of an actual really good algorithm to the crap they shoot out now. And who knows, these AI searches will fall into that same problem. When a lot of money's on the line, they will be telling it to serve up sponsors rather than actual results. But it got me thinking that there are a lot of pieces of software and such in my life that I wish had better accessibility or any accessibility. Um, graphs on a web page is almost universally inaccessible, and it's not because of um, well, some of the it's hard to pin down. In the beginning, it was because of technology. All they had to put there was an image, and no one was interested in generating or writing by hand a non-visual description. I mean, the point of a graph is to get rid of that. Why do it? Excuse me. But I need that stuff if I'm going to get some semblance of info out of it. So AI has the opportunity to look at those graphs, interpret them, and let me ask questions. But this coding thing got me thinking about um, the accessibility of the graph itself, of the figure itself. Right now they are generating images or using HTML canvas and those sorts of things. And there are some accessibility hooks in there. And I they were using 3D.js, and I don't know if there's any hooks in there for dealing with adding ARIA and that sort of thing. But these coding AI systems, if I can find one accessible enough right now that I can start exploring code changes and generation of ideas, I might be able to come up with mm, some prototypes. It got me thinking again. I'd gotten fairly tired of the software industry because today's frameworks it's just full of boilerplate. It's just the ability to say a problem in a succinct form is getting pretty darn tough as we start spreading out and interconnecting and such. The amount of boilerplate that you have to generate is staggering. Um, and, and it's just getting worse. And so to try to write a basic responsive HTML page, just the skeleton is hitting 50, 100 lines depending on what features you're trying to use. And as the technology moves and such, that boilerplate has to change. And as the old technology ages out, the new comes in, and they may fix things or do things in a different way. Now you're supporting 2 and 3 different ways, and that's why Internet Explorer lasted so long. It was so widely deployed. It was so bad. People just didn't want to rewrite that code. But anyways, I am beginning to learn what a thinking AI and coding could do for me and my needs. I'm starting to see some opportunities. Um, it it has me intrigued. Um, it will be very interesting to see if I can get this to work. I've tried the previous thinking model of the Gemini code generation, and uh, honestly, I wasn't very impressed. But I am getting the clue that I don't know how to write the prompts well yet, and I just got started, so no surprise, right? I'm out here making a mess. And this whole idea of vibe programming and such, that I the old software developer in me really hates it. Um, but I can kind of see if you marry the two, if you actually got some coding skills behind you and the engineering background, you can do a lot with these systems. Um, so that's what I've learned, that coding, as I knew it, is rapidly changing. Um, the way I thought about a job, I think it's becoming more, well, it's not rarefied yet because not every business can afford to do this stuff. Not everyone's going to adopt this right away. But given, 5 years, definitely 10, if this stuff stays available, and that's the key. If you start hiding it behind paywalls and stuff, which I don't see how they can't do that because they are pouring billions of dollars into this stuff, infrastructures, and we got a data center bubble building, where tech companies are seeing all the hype and energy and attention on AI and seeing the scaling. So they are ordering data centers essentially ahead of time in anticipation of all this computing workhorse and load and such. But there are several demonstrations that the initial models and such, although interesting and good and do great things, they're horribly inefficient. And stepping back and taking reapproaches and whatnot is showing that we can now get this stuff down to smaller hardware. DeepSeek is probably the most recent famous one, but they've been outshone already a couple of times, and they just released their version 3 that I don't know much about. It just popped up out of nowhere, and people are trying to run it on desktops, which I think is amazing. Um, the this space is changing so fast, and it's going to impact what I know and remember and how I approach computers. Particularly, I know how to talk to computers and instruct them to do things. And I'm quickly becoming a dinosaur as I watch this. And I'm in my mid 50s. I can either resign it to say, it had to happen, or I can jump in the fray and see what this old dog can learn. So that's what I learned in the last couple of days, and I'm kind of excited again. So I'm going to leave it here. I'm sure I rambled enough, and I doubt few understand what I said. But we have a very interesting decade ahead of us, and the software developer is in for a rude awakening. Till next time.